We certainly got around to this one pretty quickly after the first one. At least comparative to other series we've done.
That was like 2 years ago, dude.
I said relatively compared to what we normally do. Yeah. Unless it's Sonic. Then that's a yearly thing for us, but... Yes, it's Spyro 2 for the PlayStation 1.
Ripto's Rage. Who is this? The Ripto was the bad guy from last time, wasn't it?
No, that was Ganasty Gnorc.
That was Ganasty Gnorc, right.
Actually, in the PAL region, this game is known as Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer, because Glimmer is the first level in the game, and you go through a gateway to get there. Bye, Ted's file.
What? No!
That gateway to Glimmer because the first level in the game is called
Glimmer.
what? Glimmer.
Yeah.
So that it just totally discounts the other stages that you're going through in the game. Fuck those. Glimmer is the only one that counts. It's like Sonic the Hedgehog being called Gateway to Green Hill. But
Yeah,
what
pretty
about
much.
Marble Zone? What about
Well, you know, that title might apply to Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, is it Tom Kenny?
Yeah, it's Tom Kenny.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Super Mario 64 painting to Bob on Battlefield.
Well, I mean, let's see. When was Spyro 2 released? It
1999.
Okay, so this was just when SpongeBob was getting his stride, but before
It
then,
just started,
you know, I know Tom Kenny as Dog from Cat Dog, Heifer from Rocko's Modern Life, which was weird because the voice of Rocco in Rocko's Modern Life was the voice of Spyro in the last game. So I'm guessing he didn't want to return previously, and they just get Tom Kenny instead. He was the cow in Rocko's Modern Life. Get him to Spyro.
Oh my god, Hunter's mouth always freaks me out. He is...
Yeah, the models in this game are weird, but I like them.
It's almost
They're
like it's a
charming.
PlayStation 1 game.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it reminds me of. It reminds me of the sort of model degradation the Crash Bandicoot models received in Crash Bash when transitioning to the main 3D model games. As in, let's remove as many polygons as we can while still keeping them in sort of.
Spyro looks great, and what I love about Spyro, and they tried to do this with Hunter to an extent, is that the texture on the model smooths out the polygons a lot, like how Spyro has the scales, and they tried to make Hunter have spots. But
Yeah.
Or at least hide the illusion that they're jagged models.
Yeah.
Which is why
By the
good
way, there's
texturing
no subtitle option in this game. Sorry.
Okay, that's
There's something you need to know. Bad guy does bad things.
Yeah, I'm sure the cutscenes are on YouTube if you want to know what they're actually saying. There's actually some
But who cares?
issues with my disc later on.
The funny thing is that Catherine's disc is weird, so the characters will speak
Not
very
scratched,
strangely.
just weird.
Yeah.
I forget if
Yeah.
that happened in this recording.
That happens, unfortunately, with a lot of old PS1 games. Gamers of today should probably be informed that CDs were not quite as durable as DVDs and are nowhere near as durable as Blu-rays, so it was a lot easier to scratch up your discs back then.
Or just
Yeah.
smudge them to weird things happen.
It visibly looks fine, the disc, but, well, the proof is in what happens, I suppose. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
What kind of for example, like what? Because I can barely hear the game myself because we're talking.
There is no game audio right now.
There is no game audio right now.
It cut out.
If you need help, please check the enclosed instruction book.
Pretty much. There's when Ted was playing it and I was backseating, there was a part where Alora's supposed to say like to Hunter, like, you can't even find your running shoes. But she just kept repeating, running shoes, running shoes, running shoes.
Halfway there.
We're like, okay, we
Halfway
get it,
there.
Laura.
Halfway there.
Not until Gen 3, guys. Jeez.
Yeah, and another weird thing about a lot of old CD-based games is that their audio was played in the form of audio tracks on the disc, so...
hey, not even HD collections are immune to that sort of shit. Get them earlier.
Get him earlier. Get him earlier.
Yeah, it's just like it was a frequent bug where you'd get basic audio skips with scratched discs, and I have a few games that will do that for me. Like if I for some reason go insane and decide I want to play the PS1 version of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, don't. It's the most brain dead easy thing on the planet. But if I decide I want to play that, half the voiced audio just doesn't work anymore. Like the game is fine, but the audio, no.
So, Catherine, is this a 100% playthrough?
It is 100% playthrough plus all skill points.
Huzzah.
Because
Aren't
I
you
never got
fancy?
all the skill points as a child, and I was like, I want to try to
you
get
hate
them.
yourself.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ryan,
I
look,
don't
it's
think
that
we're-
flutter thing that explains why you were so bad at the last game.
Yeah, basically.
Oh yeah, the hover's great. So
Yes,
like this
Spyro
game,
basically plays exactly the same as he did in the first game, but he does get new moves going into the game, but he starts with his little flutter, which you press triangle at the end of a jump to get a little extra height,
yeah,
which is
there-
way more helpful than you think it is.
Exactly. There's some jumps that require the hover to get across a gap, but there's a lot of times where it's not necessarily required, but it makes it a little bit easier if you don't jump quite perfectly. It just gives you a little wiggle room, and it can add a little challenge for certain jumps in the game.
Also gives the developers a reason to broaden level design if you
Yeah.
give Spyro more than the standard moveset from the previous game.
Absolutely.
It also
and-
leads to a lot of glitches,
Yeah.
or at least out of bounds skips.
How long after Spyro 2? How long after Spyro 1 was Spyro 2 released? Was it a year?
I think it was
A
a
year,
year.
yeah.
I'm
Was it a
pretty
year?
sure it was about a year. I know that Spyro 3 was a year later because it's called Spyro Year of the Dragon. And the year 2000 is the Year of the Dragon in the Chinese Zodiac, and that's when it was released. So,
Timing.
exactly.
Which also means we have to get it out before this time, otherwise it's not relevant anymore.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Now, I always find it a little bit funny when, in a game, someone will actually talk to your character about the checkpoint mechanic. And
Yeah.
like you find it in all sorts of games even today. Like basically every MMO I've ever played has an in-universe explanation for why you come back when you die, but they word it so that it's like everyone benefits from this. So why does anyone ever die?
It's
Because
just kind
the
of
plot demands it.
It's kind of weird whenever video game characters bring up something that generally only exists in the gameplay, like Sonic Adventure 2. Like when you're fighting Final Hazard, like Sonic and Shadow will be like, "I'll go collect the rings," and you're like, "Wow, you guys acknowledge that rings exist?" Like, no, that's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
That's weird.
My-
Even as game as early as Link's Awakening DX, you get the kids in the first village. telling
Yeah,
you,
but you
press
know,
these buttons.
you
do
know,
this.
it-
Don't ask me what that means.
What do you mean you don't know what the A button is? The great source will know.
Yeah, but you know that lamp shaded it, but it also did lend itself well to the
You!
fact that Link's
boy.
Awakening.
Everyone's favorite character.
Hello, my dear boy.
He is somewhat funny in this game, but he is a million times funnier in Spyro 3. So you'll see me say no to him a lot of the time. In Spyro 3, one of the developers, Brian Hastings, says that some of his favorite lines in the game are when you say no to Moneybags, because he'll get really angry, or he'll just he just says some really funny things. They didn't make him nearly as funny in this game, but we'll see that a lot more in the third game. And then he randomly appears in one level in the game that I do not speak of. That is not the true fourth game. There is no true fourth game. This series should have ended after 3 games.
What about Skylanders?
Ugh.
Is there a money?
What
bag
about that
story
one
that's
voiced by
going-
Frodo Baggins?
I think I heard that one. The Elijah Wood one, I think, is considered not bad, but I haven't played it. My experience is limited to the first 3 games, the game that
And
must
which
not
will
be
not be
named,
named.
and a little bit of one of the GBA games before I realized this is an isometric platformer and it's awful. It controls awful.
I owned both isometric Spyros. Well, no, there's like 3 or 4. I owned both.
Season of Ice and Season of Flame.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
owned
it's
both
funny
of
that we
those.
were going into a Harry Potter tangent earlier, and she's talking about a game that must not be named, and I'm hoping that subtitle has Voldemort somewhere in that title.
No, it's Enter the Dragonfly.
Oh,
Enter the Dragonfly among Spyro fans is considered the Sonic 06 of Spyro. In
Honestly,
terms of
I think
quality
it
and
At least
worse.
but at least Sonic 06 is fun to mess around in because of how broken it is. It's just bad.
no,
I
apparently
think
it's
it's
just
still
as
fun to mess around in. Probably
Well,
it's been a long
at this
time.
at this point, it would probably be more appropriate to call Enter the Dragonfly the Sonic Boom of Spyro. I mean,
Well,
it's not a spin-off, but it's got that same
It
sort
was
of
made by a-
boring and kind of glitched up quality to it.
It was made by a different developer, though, completely. So
Yeah, and so was Sonic Boom. That's my point.
Yes, yeah, that's why I think you're making a good comparison. What happened was Insomniac was the developer for the first 3 Spyro games, but technically they didn't own the rights to Spyro as a character. The rights were owned by Universal Studios, who contracted Insomniac to make 3 games. It's very similar to the situation with Crash Bandicoot. So after those 3 games and their contract was up, since they had experience in game development, it didn't make sense to stick with a franchise where some of the money from sales and Sony would go to Universal. Yeah, so they broke from Universal. They started
and they made Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, they made Ratchet and Clank. But Universal sort of did whatever with the series afterwards. So
Purple Dragons are so passé.
And then Spyro, I know Spyro's owned by Activision now. Was it owned by anybody else in the meantime?
I don't think so.
No, actually. I know Universal just kind of let whoever develop various games, but I don't know if they technically owned him.
Okay, so yeah, because I know definitely Activision owns him right now, and he's in that. There's like a Skylanders Netflix series going on right now where Spyro's one of the main characters. Apparently, there was also a Crash Bandicoot episode. So I've never watched it, but I hear I hear different things between it being and pretty okay. So it's probably not anything special, but it's just like Spyro and Crash were probably 2 of the biggest faces from the original PlayStation 1 era, so it's kind of sad to see where he's ended up now. Like, the first Skylanders game was called Spyro's Adventure or something to that effect, and now they just don't acknowledge him at all in Skylanders. He's just one of the characters you can control like any of the multiple other ones, so people don't care.
I heard from developer interviews with the people at Insomniac that they just kind of felt, after the 3rd game, they also just kind of felt like they'd kind of run out of things to do with Spyro because he's a 4-legged creature. You can't do anything with his hands, really. Like, he can't hold anything except in his mouth. And then you look at Ratchet and Clank, where Ratchet can wield weapons, he can shoot. And then you have Clank that can do the sort of flying type of stand in for the flying abilities that Spyro had because of his wings, and you kind of see that they'd kind of felt like they'd run out of things to do with Spyro, and I really respect that as a developer they didn't just kind of milk the series and make a million variations on the levels.
Really sounds no different than how Naughty Dog felt about Crash, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted.
There's I agree with developers stepping away from franchises like that, because at some point, if developers they run out of ideas for something, they're going to run out of passion while they're making stuff for that, and it's not necessarily the same thing as a franchise having no potential anymore, but at some point it's just better to pass it on to another team who hasn't spent 3 games making the same general sort of thing, and might come at it with a fresher perspective. And
you have to respect people who understand when their work is finished too. You don't have to keep on adding stuff just because you feel obligated to. If it's done, it's done. You can just leave it there.
Yeah, it's just what I'm saying is sometimes it's better for a franchise to continue under a different team, provided you get the right team, which Spyro and Crash clearly did not. Well, with the possible, I suppose, exception of Crash to Insanity. But
no, but even that had its problems.
Yeah, even that had its problems, but I get the feeling that was more of a budget issue. Because the general gameplay in Insanity was fine, and the story direction was great. It just didn't have a whole lot of meat on its bones. So,
So, are we trying to shoot all the annoying guys with the rocks right now?
Yeah. So the other big difference from Spyro 1 to Spyro 2 is they added a lot of challenges in the level. They're always in the main level, unlike Spyro 3, where they often sort of segmented them away from the main level, largely actually to prevent people from try to prevent people from glitching out of bounds using the flight power-ups. So in this game, they're all in the main level. You find NPCs who give you a little challenge. In this case, it's shooting the rocks at the really annoying lizards.
They're kind of the equivalent of Crash's gems, in the sense that you don't need them to complete anything, but you do need them for 100% to unlock the quote-unquote true ending.
And you need a certain number. You generally need a certain number to unlock levels. For example, there are some later levels in this game and in the third game that won't open up until you have a certain number of the requisite collectibles. In this game, they're the orbs, but you also need talismans that you get just from beating the main level.
So,
which unfortunately are not based on the Chinese zodiac that gave you special powers.
Would I be incorrect in assuming that the aiming in first person thing is not particularly smooth in this game?
It's not. It's not great. It works. It's functional, but it's not amazing.
Use a D-pad or analog stick.
You can use either. I think.
Yeah. One of the a very, very common thing with analog controlled things in PlayStation 1 games in particular is that sometimes they were just lazily remapped D-pad actions. So,
I actually don't know which way it's done. I think I used the D-pad for some things and the analog stick for others. I think it just depends on how much precision I want.
I think, Lewis, are you talking about like how you think you're getting analog control with the DualShock, but in reality, it's just digital D-pad presses?
Yeah, like there are several games that come to the top of my head that do that. Gex Enter the Gecko is one. Like I'll still play with the analog stick for comfort reasons, but it's really just a directional D-pad control mapped to a stick. And then there's the Harry Potter game that I mentioned earlier, Sorcerer's Stone. One of the most infuriating things about that game, and the only challenge you'll ever get out of it, is flying your broom, because you have to fly through rings, rather small ones, with D-pad control mapped to an analog stick. It's not fun.
Oh no,
Those
flags!
Really tacky.
The bastards!
Hello. We didn't get a chance to introduce ourselves before. My name is Alora.
Hi, I'm Spyro.
Hi, I'm Tom Kenny.
What are you?
I'm Spyro. You may recognize me from such works.
Wait,
You may remember me from such programs as...
So she's only just now introducing herself as Alora?
Yeah.
So earlier the Checkpoint Fairy introduced herself as a friend of Alora, and Spyro didn't think to go, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
All magical. If you can collect enough of them, they can.
She disappears after the first game, right? Well, this game, I should say.
She appears in the very ending of Spyro 3, because you find one of the friends.
She
Spyro,
exists. Yeah, she exists in 3, but she doesn't really show up.
She only shows up physically at the very end when the professor, because the professor is in Spyro 3 at certain points because he created or like I don't know
He did
Agent
something.
9, the monkey with a gun that is Spyro's friend and you get to play as.
Torch Ripto. Torch Ripto.
Yeah, what he said. Oh, Christ.
I don't understand why it did that.
Basically, what they're telling you is get shiny things.
And Torch Ripto.
Yes, Torch Ripto.
It really is shocking how much better
universe.
Spyro's model is than everybody else.
But the detail that was bothering the hell out of me, and I can't look away, is that the way the human eyes blink in this game, there's no eyelids, it just squeezes the eye graphic.
Yeah.
Ah! You just draw some sprites, goddammit.